This payday budgeting feature changed my life. If you start this now, I think it's going to set you up for a 2025 of being able to save money and feeling much more relaxed about and on top of your finances, which is ultimately what we all really want, isn't it? I learned it off a friend, now I'm telling it to some friends, and hopefully by the end of this video you'll want to share it with a friend too. There are going to be a few steps to this, and the last one is just a little hack that I personally find most powerful for saving. I'm going to be talking about Monzo in this video because it's personally the banking app that I've been using for a long time, not always to its full potential, which I will explain in a bit, but I believe that there are other banking apps that behave in the same way, so stick around and see if your current one does the same thing. This video is not sponsored by Monzo, they do not know that little old me is making this video. Okay, I think the first step that we all need to do is to figure out what we are actually budgeting slash saving for. What kind of life are you hoping that this will enable you to lead? For me, I budget so I can stay out of having to have an employer and set work hours so that I can be free to home educate my kids. Now that's only going to be true probably for a very small minority of you. Your goal may be different, like you're saving to buy your first house or a bigger house, or because you want to start your own business. Everyone is different and everyone is going to have different financial goals and different things that they need to budget for. And I think that's important to have clear in your mind for when we come to later steps in this video, because they're all going to apply to everyone, but they're going to be slightly different. Just think about what is your North Star when it comes to your budgeting and saving goals. You might want to write that down somewhere, or if it's that important to you, it is etched in your mind, whatever works for you. Now, the next step I did before we really even had any kind of budget, which I can't now even fathom how we were getting by without a budget. Like, I can't get my head around that. What were we doing? Now that I have seen this way, I can't unsee it, and I literally can't tell you how we were managing our money, because I guess we weren't managing our money, that's the point. And I'm sorry if what I'm about to say is like teaching you to suck eggs and you're thinking, well, duh, obvious. I've been doing that for years. This is like budgeting 101. But what I did was went through my bank account to see where extra money was coming out. Obviously, I knew things like we are paying a mortgage, we are paying car insurance, we are paying for petrol, we are paying for food shopping. As it turns out, I didn't quite know how much we were paying, but there are other little expenses that really add up, and they're so little you won't even notice them until you go back through your bank statements. Babe, what's up?
I need to get new shorts.
Okay. Oh man, it's hot. So for example, a big one for me was parking costs. I didn't know how much I was spending on parking fees. I don't mean parking fines, I mean what you pay to park in like everywhere now. Like I said, we are a home educating family, which means we are out a lot at places like country parks, museums, etc. And there is very often like a £3 to £5 to £9 parking charge that I hadn't been accounting for. Like, I just paid it when we got there and didn't think about it again until I went back through my statements and realised quite how much it had added up to. The other thing was coffee out. Rookie mistake number one, but you know, £3.60-ish here and there was really adding up. And I was also spending extra money at supermarkets, just grabbing a quick little top up to our weekly shop every now and then because I hadn't budgeted enough originally. You know, I'm trying to be better at this now, obviously, with taking my own coffee and snacks out places, but I really did need to factor this into the budget. Okay, your things are going to be different. It could be like if you work and you're trying to be really good and take your lunches every day, but maybe once a week you buy lunch out. That can be, you know, best part of £7 for each lunch, and that's almost £30 a month, rounding up, which I always do, and that's going to be another important thing I'll talk about later. Maybe you're in a financial position where £30 a month just disappearing into the ether isn't too bothersome, but that is a big leak for me and I think a lot of other families. Okay, so go back. I would do the last 6 months preferably, but as much as you can face doing. In the first month that you're going through, write down all the extra little things that you've spent on, then the next month add those costs on and any extra new things that you find, and by the end you will see the trends of the little things that are adding up to something significant. So once I'd done that, I made a list of all the things that were coming out monthly. So the usual, like mortgage, petrol, food, etc. Then I added my new things, which were food and drink out, clothing, especially kids' clothes. They are always growing out of clothes and needing new things, which I hadn't put in the budget. Parking, coffee, etc. And then there's some monthly things like the kids' activities. So for example, they're doing swimming, kung fu, Spanish lessons. We have quite a lot of those sort of things because we home ed, maybe a tutoring session, those kind of things. Now, some of these things I needed to hack a little bit to figure out how much it was costing me monthly. So for example, kung fu we paid for in blocks of 10, which was £120. So I counted that as £12 a session, aka £12 a week, because he did one session a week. And then I times it, I think, by 42 to account for the fact they didn't run over Christmas or summer holidays, and divided it by 12 to give me a monthly total-ish. This is all very loose math, okay, don't come at me, but here is where you always round up or overestimate, because the last thing you want to be doing is not having enough in the budget. You want to be having money left over, if anything. Now here is where things are going to get really good. We are getting to the meat of it. Once you have all of your monthly expenses, we are moving over to Monzo and the key features that have changed everything for me. And remember that tiny little feature at the end that I mentioned, that was just the icing on the cake for me being able to save money. Now I've had a Monzo account since May 2019, my account details tell me, so 5 years now. But it wasn't until October of last year, of 2023, that I started using this really powerful feature. Here's me in October 2023 telling my friend who told me about Monzo pots that I'd set some up. So I've been using Monzo pots solidly for a year now, and honestly it really has changed our finances. And I don't use the term life-changing lightly, because mostly on YouTube it's a bit clickbaity, but this budgeting method really has put me at so much more ease and not wondering how I'm gonna afford upcoming things. And financial stress can be one of the biggest stresses in life, and obviously we are so privileged that we have a monthly salary coming in, and that would change a lot if we didn't have that. But for a family of 5 who home educates as well, we do really have to plan that out so precisely to make it work and not be completely stressed about money every month. Okay, so like I said, this feature is called Monzo Pots, and I feel like you could be thinking, if you have any kind of modern online banking app, like how did you have Monzo for 4 years without using the Pots feature? Like, I don't know why I wasn't using it, and it seems so simple now. But I do have other friends who aren't using it or don't have one of these types of banking apps, so I feel like if I can just pass this on like it was passed on to me, and it changes the way just one person manages their money for the better, then amazing. I've told this to my neighbour, and she has already ordered a Monzo card because she wasn't using it and it seemed like a great idea to her, and maybe it will to you too. So Monzo Pots are just a way to organise your money into different almost mini accounts called pots. And the idea broadly is that you don't spend money that you don't have, because you can see how much you have for each individual expense. So you can set up pots for whatever you think you need. I think there is a limit to 20 regular pots, which I could actually make more of them because I really break them down. I will show you some of mine. Just as a side, all of our big monthly recurring set expenses come out of another account for now, so like our mortgage and our car insurance, because at the time when I was setting this up, it was just easier to leave them where they already were. It was working fine. We might change that in the future, because you can obviously have direct debits coming out of Monzo and standing orders. And actually I've now linked my mortgage in Monzo, which is a nifty little feature I won't go into here, but it shows you how much you've paid off and how much longer is remaining on your mortgage, and you can set an alert to tell you when it's time to start looking at remortgaging. Anyway, if you want a video about Monzo's other features, then let me know in the comments and I will look at doing something along those lines. But for now, we are looking at pots. And when we first start, we're going to have a little bit of legwork here, okay? But once it's done, there's going to be little to no legwork every month going forward, which for me is so worth it. So you're going to set up all of your pots, and there are different types of pots, as you can see, but for the purposes of this video, we're going to be talking about regular pots. I feel like I've never said the word pots more in my life. It's starting to sound strange. I am going to mention savings pots in a bit, but I don't know as much about those, and what I've been using so far for my budgeting are just the regular pots. When you're setting them up, you can add your own or standard images for them, which I really like, to just be able to see at a glance what they're all about. So let me show you my pots. This won't be the same for everyone by any means, but it might give you a good idea about the sort of things I'm breaking my budget down into. I actually break my food budget down by week because I do a weekly food shop. It just means that by the end of the month, I still have the same amount in my food budget for that week as I have for the other weeks, and we're not just eating beans on toast every night, which is a great dinner, by the way. Having these pots for holidays, birthdays, Christmas, they have been a game changer. You've probably been doing this for years. I've been winging it, and now I'm not winging it, and it feels so good. My youngest's birthday was at the end of September, and I just knew we had the money for it, and I was able to work out, dividing the pot by 3 because I have 3 kids, how much money I had to spend on his birthday, and I was then able to stick to that budget, knowing that I will still have the same amount of money for when my twins' birthday is in December. So liberating. So moving on, and this next feature is amazing because it is going to take away all of the future legwork, and you can do it while you're setting up each individual pot, or you can set them all up, make sure you've got them the way you want them, and then go and add this feature afterwards. But this is really important for getting the most out of it, and that is scheduled payments. And it's going to make sure that all of your budgets are covered automatically for you once you've set it up once. Every month it's going to do it automatically. You barely even have to think about it every month once it's set up. Genius. So the way it works for me is my husband sends a lump sum to our Monzo after his payday, and that sum is worked out based on all the monthly expenses we worked out earlier, and then that lump sum gets automatically split between all the pots that I've set up, because I've set an amount and a date for the money to be withdrawn from my main Monzo account into the pot. So for example, I put £107 into our swimming pot. It just comes out automatically on a certain date that I've set, I think for a day after my husband transfers part of his salary into the account. Swimming is another thing that I buy in blocks of £99, and I cannot tell you how just stress busting it is to have to go and buy, say, 2 new blocks of swimming for 2 children, so £198, and just know that the money is there and it's not going to affect any other areas of our life. Like, I don't get that sinking feeling of when I go up to the desk to pay, of thinking, oh, £200 coming out of our account, because I know I've got it covered ahead of time. And like, I really think, like I've said before, this is just like this feeling of liberation almost, that you know you have things covered. It's just, for me personally, for our family, that brings so much value to our lives. So yeah, the scheduled payments are amazing. I believe there is actually a feature called Salary Sorter, which sounds like it does similar, but the current way I'm doing it works so well for me that I'm unlikely to change it. Now, before we move on to my final favourite little feature, I'll really quickly talk to you about the savings pots, because I do have one. As you know, we home educate our kids, and that means if they choose to do GCSEs or similar when they're older, we have to pay for them. We don't get any financial assistance towards that. So I actually have a savings pot set up for those. Bearing in mind my eldest kids are almost 7, and we probably won't look to start doing GCSEs until around 14, so that's a long-term savings goal I'm using that for. And so I'm putting into a savings ISA £36 a month over a minimum of 7 years, and I think future me will thank me for that. Okay, now we've got our budget planned, we've got our pots set, we've got our scheduled payments set up. Now for my favourite feature, we go into the list of pots, click edit layout, and then we click the eye to hide pots from our main view. And I would recommend doing this for as many of the pots as you feel you can, that you don't need on a daily basis. Do not look at what money you have in each pot, because then, at least for me, there is always the temptation to spend it or to skim off little amounts. Now, there is a feature called locked pots, which means you can lock the pot for a set time, and to take money out before that time you set, you have to completely archive the pot and withdraw all of the money into your main Monzo account. If that works for your brain, then it could be a really good feature to use, but for me it was still way too easy to get the money out. You know, just archive the pot, create a new one if I need to take the money that I need out of it. What works for me is out of sight, out of mind. If I can't see it, I am way less likely to spend from it. So for example, that long-term savings pot, I just never have it visible. And that is an easy access pot, but I never have it on my home screen. The money does not exist to me right now. And this, for me at least, has been perhaps the most powerful feature of Monzo pots. Schedule in money for the swimming, hide the pot. The money does not exist to you until you need to pay for a new batch of swimming. And then it's there and you haven't siphoned off any to buy a new top because you also have a pot for clothing. And if you want to kick off a savings pot with an extra £5, if you use the link I'll put in the description to sign up for Monzo and make one card payment within 30 days, then we both get £5. And then maybe you could share your link with a friend and tell them about all these great features that are going to change their financial life, and then your friend gets £5 and you get another £5. But hopefully all this will help you, no matter what account you use or whether you already have Monzo but weren't using these features. I really hope it benefits even one person just to feel more peace of mind over your finances. And YouTube thinks you will like this video next. Take care.